Hello, it's Rebecca here from Precious Pages Papercraft, and today I'm designing a layout for Bramble Fox, and I'm using one of the perspectives from the November Fox box. It's the gorgeous Warm and Cosy title in the bottom left corner there. Now apologies, the beginning part of this video seemed to have corrupted and deleted itself, I guess. Normally I would give you a close-up of the perspective I'm using, but that seems to be missing. You will see it as the layout goes on and obviously in the close-ups at the end, but it's a gorgeous kind of raspberry red colour, and it's going to work really well for my autumnal layout today. It would also work really well for a Christmassy layout if you can bear to hold on to it and stash it away for a little bit longer. I can't do that. I need to use it now, so I'm going to be using it on an autumn layout today. So I've done a little bit of preparation work off camera today. I'm using Vicki Boutin's colour study collection. It came out in the summer, but it's got some beautiful colours in it that work really well for autumn photos, so I'm going with that. I've cut three kind of banners out. I think they're about 3 by 4 inches, obviously with the tail cut out the bottom. And then I've run those through my silhouette machine and cut out a leaf shape from the centre of each of those. I've used the same leaf for all of them, and I'm going to turn these into sequin shaker pockets. I'm just stitching around the outside edge of all 3 of them at the moment with black thread, and I've also kept the 3 leaves that came out of those banners, and I've cut a few extra leaves from the same 3 pattern papers, and I'm going to stitch through the centre of those as well. Just brings a bit more texture to the page, another material on the layout, and just generally a bit more interest, so I love to add stitching. So I'm, like I said, going to skip through all of that because it takes me a while. But I'm now just kind of tidying things up. I've trimmed the ends of the threads on the leaves and left those kind of dangling, just a bit more interest to it, I suppose, and less fiddly than trying to tie them all off. But with the banners, I do want those to be quite neat. So I am bringing the threads to the back and then just sticking it down with a bit of tape and trimming it off. So the idea is I'm going to have the 3 banners at the top of the page there. Sorry, I had to take a break there. My postman turned up with a pizza box for me. But yeah, I'm going to have the banners up the top of the page there, and I'm going to turn those leaves into sequin shaker pockets using 2 different mixes from Spiegelmum Scraps. So I've got Deep Rose Sea and Mermaid Fiesta, and they're both kind of blues and reds in them. They're going to work really well with my photos today. So the photos of my little boy, during the October half term, we went to a local little model village, and it was a really weird day. It started off quite warm and then got really chilly, and thankfully I had gone prepared. So I had his hat, scarf and gloves in my bag, and the photos were of him stood in front of this gorgeous tree with lovely red leaves on it. You'll see them in a minute when I bring them back in, but he's all wrapped up nice and warm, so I thought this title was perfect, and it matches the colour of the leaves in the background perfectly as well. So it's kind of like a match made in heaven really for this layout. So I'm going to have my photos layered on top of the banners, kind of coming down the page a bit, with some leaves around them. But what I'm doing at the moment is just getting these shaker pockets made. So I've got this red line tape. This stuff's super strong, really love this, and I'm going around the edge of the leaves. I had a bit of a moment doing this. The next step of my shakers, I needed to get close to the leaf edge, and I'll explain why in a minute. But for some reason, I thought I needed to get the tape for this part around the edge, leaf edge, I can't speak now, as well. I didn't need to do this. I could have just gone around the edge of that banner and it would have been a lot easier and quicker. But oh well, never mind, it's done now. But I'm just getting this tape down. Just to stick my acetate. I could have used wet glue, but I didn't want it to kind of splodge out everywhere, and I didn't want to wait for it to dry, so I find this red line tape works really well because I can just stick the acetate and then get on. But yes, I'm going around with the tape. I'm going to stick the acetate down, and then I'm going to go around with some adhesive foam tape. It's the Big Mama foam tape roll from Spiegelmum Scraps, and I love using it for shaker pockets. And that I do need to follow the leaf edge as closely as I can, because I want that's obviously going to contain my sequins, and I want them to be contained behind the leaf. If I'd done the tape around the edge of that banner, it meant the sequins would have had more space to kind of spread out, and then you're not going to see as many coming through that leaf pattern or the leaf aperture. So for this I am trying to get as close to that leaf edge as possible, just so that you can see the sequins. But once I've got this tape all in place, I'm just going to add a sprinkle of sequins into the centre of that and stick some white cardstock to the back and trim it down so you can't see it, and then that's going to be my shakers complete. Okay, so those are those done, and you can see there the colours of the sequins match my photos and my perspective really well, so I'm really happy with how those have turned out. And now I want to get my twine. I showed you at the beginning I'm going to use, kind of tried to go through the materials I was going to use, but that's the part of the video that I lost half of, so again, apologies. But I'm going to bring in some baker's twine. It's pink and white striped, so it matches my perspective really nicely. I've made some holes at the top corners of my banners, and I'm now going to try is the operative word here, and thread this baker's twine through, but it kept fraying on me trying to thread it through the needle and then thread it through the holes that I'd made, and in the end I have to give up with the needle idea. So I try and make my holes a little bit bigger. Still can't get it through, so I put some glossy accents on the very end of that twine, kind of twiddle it between my fingers, and that kind of makes it a little bit more rigid and kind of sticks all the ends together so they're not fraying as much, and then that goes through those holes a lot easier. So here we go, just putting that glossy accents on, and once that's kind of set slightly, they just go through so much easier. So I'm going to have it so that the twine is visible along the top of the tags. So I'm going down this top first hole here, or I could have gone up it I suppose, but I did it a bit backwards, and then down the other end, and I'm going to have all three joined on the same bit of twine, and then I'm going to leave a little bit dangling down either end just for a bit of interest and texture on the page. So there we go, I am finally there. That took a lot longer than it should have done, but you can kind of see how I'm going to have my layout now. So I've got those three banners at the top, and then my two photos I'll have layered up on the bottom of them there. I didn't want to cover those sequins completely, but yeah, I'm going to have them at the bottom there, and then my perspective. I kind of play a little bit with a couple of positions, but I do end up with it underneath my photos, or underneath one of them anyway. But I wanted to make sure that my photos kind of had a bit of separation from the colours in the background, so I've added a layer of white cardstock behind them both. I just find that helps them pop a little bit, and then I'm going to back them with some patterned papers that I've used for the tags. So the photo that's going to sit on top of that kind of greenish blue tag I've backed with pink, and then the other one that's sitting on the pink tag I'm backing with the greeny blue paper, just to mix it up a little bit so that they don't get lost. They're going to stand out nicely now. And as always with me, I love to distress edges, so I've distressed the edges of all of those banners, and I'm doing the same with that pattern paper behind my photos. I'm just having a play now, trying to decide where I want my title to sit, because I am going to add a little bit of mixed media to the background in a minute, and I didn't want to go too mad on the area that perspective will sit, because I wanted the colour to stay quite true, because it matches my photo and those sequins perfectly, so I didn't want to lose the colour of it. So I have a bit of a play with these leaves I've cut out on my silhouette. I've also cut a couple of flowers from some of the colour study patterned papers. I've got a couple of black and white ones and a couple of the yellow ones. I'm going to bring those in as well. But I've just drawn with a paper around the edge of everything, so I kind of can see where I want my mixed media. And I'm using a couple of distress inks. I think I use Stormy Sky and Chipped Sapphire, I think are the two I used. And interestingly, you can see there I've planned to have my perspective to the left of my photo. And I end up changing that completely. So thankfully I didn't do too much mixed media on the area that it does end up sitting. I'd have been so upset if I'd done that, and I'd probably have started my background again. But I'm just using the packaging technique to add some colour to the background there, and then I'm coming in with the same colours and adding some splatters. And I'm going to leave those splatters to dry a little bit before dabbing the excess up, so that they are quite a deep blue colour. Because there's a lot of blue in my photos, I wanted to have that blue quite deep and rich on my background. So there we go, that is my mixed media done. I'm not going too mad, I've just added the two colours of blue there. And I haven't bothered using gesso at all because I wasn't planning to add a lot of water to my background. If I'm not adding loads of water or trying to blend and mix colours, I generally don't bother with gesso. I'm just fiddling about with this twine now, trying to get the ends how I like them. I wanted them like a little bit curvy and wavy, so just having a bit of a play with that. And now I'm going to get these banners stuck in place and start building my layout. So I've just stuck the banners down with double-sided tape. They've already got quite a lot of dimension already because obviously they've got that adhesive foam tape behind them to create the shaker pocket, so they already stand off my background nicely. So I'm not adding any foam behind those. Where my photos are going to kind of sit half on top of those and half off, I've had to add some foam to the bottom parts of my photos just to bring them up to the same level so they don't kind of slant and dip down. So you'll see I've added some little bits of foam there and got those stuck in place. And now I'm going to fiddle again with my perspective title, trying to decide on a position. And I'm going to have these leaves kind of in a few clusters around my photos. Kind of wanted them to look like they were cascading down through the photos. I'm going to get these flowers popped in place as well. And I'm using double-sided foam pads just to get these leaves and the flowers stuck in place. And I'm going to go around the edge of them with my finger, just kind of distressing the edges slightly. Not too much because I didn't want to lose the definition of the shape of the leaves, but I wanted them to have a little bit more texture, especially as I've distressed the edges of everything else. So I'm just going to use my finger for that on the leaves. So back to my title, trying to decide where I want it to sit on my layout, and this is where I make the decision to stick it underneath the photo on my left there. It's just so that it wasn't standing on its own too much over on the left. Thankfully there's not a lot of mixed media behind it, but I've stuck it there with my glossy accents, and now I'm just going to add some more of those leaves above it to the edge of that photo there. So I want a few more little things to stick on my layout. I don't want to go too mad embellishing too heavily. So I've pulled out the embellishment packs I've got from the colour study collection, and I'm just going to cut another one of those yellow yellow flowers, and I'm going to stick that over on that yellow banner, just because it was looking a bit bare over that side of the page. I felt like I needed something, so I'm going to pop one of these flowers up there. And I'm using my cutter bee scissors to cut everything out. They're the scissors I always use for fussy cutting, and I try not to use them to cut anything adhesive, so like foam that's sticky or anything. I try to keep them just for my fussy cutting because they're really sharp. They're just brilliant for fussy cutting. So yeah, they're just my go-to scissors. I've also added a couple of those black and white butterflies from the collection. They're cut from a pattern paper. I felt like because I'd used a couple of the black and white flowers, I wanted a couple more things black and white, and those butterflies were perfect. I'm also adding a rainbow there. As much as I loved it, it doesn't end up staying. I take that off in the end. And coming in with some of the gold hearts as well. I always think of kind of gold as a nice autumnal colour, so I'm just going to have a few hints of gold with those hearts. I'm just looking through for other little bits I can use. I'm going to use a couple of the chipboard flowers. They're foiled, they're gold foiled, so it's a bit more gold on the page as well. And I'm also going to use some of those banner pieces or little tabs you can see there. I'm going to go for tone on tone. Luckily I had the right colours left. Apart from that pink tab, I don't know why I stuck right on top of the yellow, but I did. And I will write the date on that at some point. But I've stuck a couple more bits there, the red and blue, because they go with my photo, those colours. And then the last three at the top here, these are the ones that I've decided to go tone on tone. I couldn't decide where to stick that pink one initially, but I do end up with it back up the top there. I felt it looked a bit weird having two with them at the top and then not using the pink. It did bug me that I couldn't put it on the right hand side like I had with the other two, but yeah, my OCD will just have to deal with that one today. And then I went through my Bramble Fox stash and I found some perspectives I had left over from last winter that I hadn't used, and I thought they were perfect for this layout. Went really well with my kind of warm and cozy theme. So I've got a kind of winter jumper. It's got a little like snowflake pattern on the front, and that's like a frosty light blue colour. I've also got an umbrella. It didn't really rain on this day, but it was one of those days that ended up feeling like the air was quite wet. It was just a really weird day weather-wise. It couldn't make its mind up, but that's why I've brought the umbrella in, and I've also brought in some little earmuffs as well. So I've taken off that puffy rainbow and replaced it with the earmuffs, and that's me finished. So thank you very much for joining me today. A longer video than normal, but there's a lot of faffing going on with this page. I hope you've enjoyed it and it's given you some inspiration on ways to use the perspectives in your November Fox box. Like I said, this one would work great for autumn or Christmas. I fully expect to see a lot of people saving this one for Christmas, but we'll see. That might just be me that kind of has that idea. But thanks very much for joining me. I'll leave some links in the description box below to the Bramble Fox store and also the Bramble Fox Friends Facebook group. If you're not already a member, please do head over and join. But I shall leave you with some close-ups and I'll see you next time.